Hello and welcome to the Story Pilgrim. Chicago, Illinois, Heartfelt Connections. This visit, the trip, really did feel like a pilgrimage to me. I had spent 8 years living in this extraordinary city, and it had been 4 years and a pandemic since I spent any quality time there. I had reconnections to make both with people and places. Memories to be rekindled and new ones to make as Lucy was travelling with me. Iconic architecture, sports teams, food and much more. Now before we ransack Chicago, if you haven't already rated and reviewed this podcast, please do. Every little helps. Just please take a moment to star us up and give us a few kind words. That really would go a long way. Now, like I said, it's been 4 years, so please forgive me as I will just forget things, names, dates, and places. I am getting old, so please remember that. Welcome to Chicago, a place that is very, very much a big part of my life and has a big part in my heart for a great place to have lived and worked and been a part of me. I am stood at the north end of the Michigan Mile, right next to the Water Tower place. There's two buildings up here. One of them looks like a standalone lighthouse, and then across the road there's the I don't know what you would call it. Today it is Looking Glass Theatre, which is David Schwimmer's theatre, or he's part of that theatre. David Schwimmer from Friends, just to make sure you know who that is. These two buildings were the only buildings left from the fire, the Great Chicago Fire of 1873. Pretty much just wiped out Chicago as it was. There was a load of German architects who had come over from Germany, and they were wanting to just build the perfect city. And they'd started on Chicago, but then kind of got out of hand, so they moved up to Milwaukee. And they started to design Milwaukee as they wanted to. And if you go up to Milwaukee, it's about an hour and a half drive up from Chicago. It's like the younger brother of Chicago, because it looks very similar. 1873, the fire happened, and the architects went, well, hey, we've got a blank canvas, let's move back down. So they came back down and they designed the city, and Chicago is the first city to use the grid system, has the grid system involved there. And you're standing on Michigan Avenue now. Michigan Avenue runs north to south. And where I am now, across towards the lake, the land that you see there is all reclaimed land from the lake. What they did was they took all of the debris from the fire and they just shoved it into the lake, and they basically reclaimed all of that land. So if you look at a map of Chicago, you have the Ohio Beach area, and that area you'll see it curves around and goes around down to Navy Pier. All of that land where it sort of sticks out into the lake is reclaimed land. And you've got a lot of the newer buildings on that area, and they're still building on that area, which is quite amazing. It's just a great town. I'm going to spend time walking around it today. The architecture here is stunning. It's not old, but it looks old. There's just lots to do in this town. We are now on Oak Park Beach, or is it just Oak Beach? I can't remember. I said Ohio Beach before, I got that completely wrong. They have the AVP Beach Volleyball Championship going on here at the moment. Chicago has the largest beach volleyball league in the country. Even though it's not by the sea, it's by this massive lake here. It's a big lake, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the sea.
It does look like the sea. You can't see the other side. It's quite rough today. Like I said, Chicago is living up to its title of being the Windy City. Lakeshore Drive is closed off today. There's a load of bikes. There's some sort of biking event going on, so there's no cars going up and down Lakeshore Drive at this section. It's very, very busy, even though it's like 10:30, quarter to 11 in the morning. So when you see Lake Michigan, it just looks like a huge, big sea, but it's all salt. It's not salt water; it's all fresh water. And there's various places as you go up the lake for you to tie your boat up, and little harbours, and people will hang out in the I think it's called the play pen. It's a little area that's sort of like walled off in there, which means it's much flatter. The sea is very flat, the lake is very flat in there. So yeah, it's quite impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like it just comes out of nowhere. You know, you're on the streets, feel like you're in the city, and then you step out a few more, you know, for a couple of minutes, and you're on a beach. On a beach,
man-made beach.
Yeah.
And it's because of the fact that the winters are so tough that even though, like on a windy day today, and it's Labor Day weekend, so it's a holiday weekend here in America, and this is regarded as the last weekend of summer in America, or here particularly. So people will make the most of it because they know that they've got a hard winter coming up, so they'll say, come on, let's get out, let's get some fresh air, let's go down to the beach. People come to this city for so many different reasons. It has a great theatre scene. I mean, I was involved with that. Didn't come here specifically for that, but was involved with that and had some great experiences. You've got Steppenwolf Theatre, Chicago Shakes, the Goodman, and then you got all the tiny little box theatres doing their amazing things. There's a theatre called The Gift, which does some amazing stuff. And then you've got like the finance sector, huge with the Chicago Stock Exchange. You've got a lot of world companies. McDonald's have their global headquarters here in Chicago. Walgreens have their headquarters here. Allstate Insurance, some extremely large companies have their global headquarters here. So it attracts people not only just from all over the country, but from all over the world. Great universities here, great research, great medical. It's a great medical centre. So it's a very vibrant city. It also means it's a very transitory city. So a lot of people will come in here, study here, or start their career here, and then get moved on to somewhere else. So it keeps the city alive. The music, we went yesterday to the jazz festival and we listened to some amazing music. There was a lady called Renee Marie who was absolutely amazing, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely stunning performer.
Just so relaxed in her performance, wasn't she? She was 68 years old.
Yeah.
Was only a professional singer since she was 42, so only for 26 years. But what an amazing thing that was, and that was free.
Yeah, she was the kind of full package in the sense of a beautiful voice and such like passion, but she was so amazing to watch as well. Like her presence was really like you could just feel it, and we were quite far back, so we couldn't actually see her.
Yeah.
We could see her on the screen, but she was so dynamic and just so at ease with herself that you just felt so comfortable watching her.
Yeah. And that's just a free thing that was put on at the Pritzker Stadium in Millennial Park, right next to the Chicago Bean. And there was a lot of people out, wasn't there? It was packed.
Yeah.
And it's people take advantage of that, and you kind of go, when I lived here, I you're doing your own things, you're like getting really busy with stuff, and you're like, I need to take more advantage of that, because that's the problem is there's so much going on in this city, that you can kind of get swept up in it all. Millennium Park. 1871 was the fire, not 1873. Oak Beach, not Ohio. It's not World War II. I will get better, I think. Now, the architecture in Chicago is incredible. So many buildings, spaces to see and experience. We will begin with We are literally steps away from Michigan Avenue. We're up exactly opposite the John Hancock building, which is one of the tallest buildings. It's actually now called 875 because the Hancock Insurance decided not to continue sponsoring the name. But right opposite the road is the Fourth Presbyterian Church. We're going to go inside that in a second. But they have a little courtyard next to it with a nice little fountain, like water fountain. I can walk up to it. You can hear the water fountain dribbling away there. But if anything is ever shot in Chicago, like film or TV, and they need to have a scene where they are like in Cambridge or Oxford or something, they will come into this courtyard. It feels very much like there's a little like Tudor style building with stained glass windows and little arches and columns in it. So it does feel very much like England, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah,
the
you
little
feel like
trees.
Back in time, or
yeah, and it's
college or something.
It's right. If you get the angles right, it does feel like you are. And there's a nice little like archway, walkway that you can go underneath. So let's go and have a look in the Fourth Presbyterian Church.
And we tend to think of religious people as those who excel in blowing the whistle when the rules are broken, when right belief and behavior are not followed. Religious people come across as life's enforcers and critics.
It's Sunday morning, so obviously there is a Mass happening in the Fourth Presbyterian Church, but it always gets me when Americans say that they don't have any history. And how was that for you? I mean, you and we both don't go to church and stuff, but like just as a structure.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful, but not gaudy, or it's very tasteful.
Yeah.
Because some churches are just so ornate, you can think, oh yeah, it's beautiful, but a bit off-putting or a bit alienating, but it feels very welcoming in there.
Yeah, and the stained glass window is just absolutely beautiful in there. It really is. It's one of my favourite places. When I did the Camino, I walked into a lot of churches, and I was just like, oh, I don't do that when I'm at home. And home at that time was Chicago.
Yeah.
And so then I'd start like coming in, and I'd driven past this one. This is on, Michigan Avenue. It's one of the biggest churches in Chicago, and I went in and I was like, oh wow, it's absolutely stunning. So we're on Michigan Avenue, and we're at the bridge. I should know the name of this bridge, but I can't remember. But we're right at the site of Fort Dearborn, which was settled here in like 1673 when they first were settling Chicago. And there's a depiction here of a Henry Harrington, I think it is. The names have been scrubbed out, which is good. It's a good thing, because there's a depiction here of Henry Harrington. Let's give him that name. And look who's between his feet. There's a dead Native American, and he's attacking a what would look like a chief of the Native American tribes. And the wording underneath has, since I was last here, has been scrubbed out. Somebody has come along, because it's etched into the stone, and it says the first word is defense of Fort Dearborn, and it says almost on this spot after, and then it's all rubbed out, something hundreds of, and I know because I read it and I pointed this out several times, hundreds of savages attacked Dearborn. It refers to the Native Americans as savages. This is a statue right on the edge of the bridge where thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not millions of people have walked past this, and they never look at it. They never look at the fact that there's a depiction here of a white man pretty much attacking Native Americans. And if you look over to the left, you've got Trump Tower and Trump's name in like 16, 20 foot high letters. So it's just really quite interesting. But luckily, somebody, either the city or somebody, has come along and they have absolutely rubbed out the words, which is great. But the statue's still there of this Henry Harrington attacking the Native Americans. Right in the middle of Chicago. A nod to a piece of history that probably needs to take a different slant in telling it. Us Brits have a lot to answer for. I guess we just need to be aware and do better. One of my favourite places, and not so well visited places in Chicago, is Chicago Cultural Center on the corner of Michigan and Randolph. It's a 3-story building. It used to be the public library. They built a much larger public library. It's down in the south of the Loop. But the thing is, now they have various exhibitions and things going on here. But you have to come in on the north side, and you go up one flight of stairs, and you walk up to the top, and right in the top here is that. The world's largest Tiffany glass dome. They say in the Northern Hemisphere, but nobody can prove that there's another one in the Southern Hemisphere. But it's just beautiful, isn't it? It's just a huge Tiffany glass lampshade. Green, very decorative. It's basically stained glass, but it's Tiffany glass, and it's there's a mosaic floor. Go to the south side of the building. There's a similar sized dome with mosaics in there, and it has all of the names of the famous literary people: Chaucer, Mark Twain, Shakespeare, Johnston, and it has quotes from them in that. But thousands of people will walk past this building every day and never come in, never get to experience this, and it's free. You know,
Just wondering.
it's pretty cool, isn't it? Another little gem of Chicago. On the south side of the cultural centre is the mosaic dome with the glass in it as well, and there's a quote here from Addison: "Books are the legacies that a great genius leaves to mankind, which are delivered down from generation to generation as presents to the posterity of those who are yet unborn." It's just a lovely quote. Again, you really have to come in and see this hidden gem of a building. So we are currently stood right underneath the bean, which I think originally the sculptor called it the cloud, but it's just been known as the bean. And it's just one solid piece of metal, that's been heavily polished. And when you stand underneath in the middle, what kind of effect do you get?
It's kind of like a weird optical illusion, sort of. You can see a reflection of what's below, but it's tiny, because it's right up in the centre of, like, the top of it. Yeah, it's weird. It's
a weird thing, isn't it? You get to see, and you'll find that people will lie down and put their feet up against it in the areas. But it is a really cool thing. It's in Millennium Park. Millennium Park. Obviously put up for the millennium. And at the moment, if you come out onto sort of like the Michigan side of the bean, you'll see down there's like a little stage, and there's a bar, Double Clutch Brewing Company. But in the winter, this is not here, and they have a giant. It's an ice skating rink. You can see how the outside, the white bit, it kind of they freeze it over, and it becomes an ice skating rink. So you can come down and ice skate with the bean. And the lovely thing is that you get the reflection of the skyline in the bean, which I think is really cool.
Do they do a big Christmas tree in this park?
Yeah, there'll be a big tree. There'll be big trees all over the place. We are down by the Crown Fountain, which are two towers made out of like glass blocks, glass bricks basically, and projected on from the inside of the glass bricks are faces, typically of Chicagoans, and you can hear the water coming down from the top of it, over it, and then right where the mouths are, giant faces. How tall would you say that was? Probably about 50 feet high, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
There's where the mouths are. There are other fountains that will spurt out water. I don't know how they time that to do, but then it gets this whole little paddling pool effect. So you've got all the kids are just playing in the water, aren't they? Do you want to play in the water?
I bet it's freezing.
I bet it is. Oh, there you go.
There it goes.
So there's the water coming out of the people's mouths, and the kids are loving it. It's like a shower, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a giant shower. Both ends are just spurting out. Just a cool little thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A nice piece of art.
Yeah.
There you go. It's just a quick one. Cloudgate by Anish Kapoor, inspired by liquid mercury. Kapoor wanted the bean's highly reflected surface to show the city's movement, which it does superbly. Another favourite pastime of mine while I lived in Chicago was going to watch the Chicago Cubs. Luckily for us, they were playing at home while we were there. We have just had an evening in Wrigley Field watching the Cubs play the Pirates. The Cubs were winning 3-0. Look at that, it's dead. Nobody wants the best rooftop in town and nobody in it. They were winning 3-0 and they changed pitchers in the 8th innings, and the pitcher came in and totally ballsed it up, didn't he?
Ballsed it up, see what you did there.
Dum-dum. We're walking down Clark. This is part of Wrigleyville, which is loads of bars and places to eat. It's really quiet though, everybody seems to be just going home. But yeah, the Cubs ended up losing 5-3 to the Pirates. It was not only Lucy's first baseball game, it was Lucy's first professional sports game to go and watch. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere is great.
When they played the YMCA for no reason, everybody else started dancing.
The baby with the ear defenders was the highlight.
Yeah, and then the little girl opposite was probably 5 or 6 dancing away. Yeah, she was having
a great time.
Yeah,
it's the baseball, like the games, seem to be of secondary importance to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Grand and State is next. Doors open on the right at Grand and State.
Back on Michigan Avenue and down by the river, you've got the Tribune building that we're opposite at the moment. I think it's the start of the Dark Knight Rising, where Batman is stood on top of a building and he sort of like got wrapped up and he jumps off. I think that's the top of the Tribune building. But the interesting thing about the Tribune building, or the Tribune Tower, is around the bottom of it, stuck in the wall, you will find all of these little artifacts, little pieces of stone, decoration from all over the world and from outside of our world. There was an anthropologist, I can't remember his name, in the 1930s that had a collection and said, I don't know what to do with this. And somebody lightly suggested, like, well, why don't you stick it on a wall? So he ended up sticking it on the outside of the Tribune building, and as you walk around it, and I walked past it for many, many years, there's all these little random objects stuck in there. So there's bits from Notre Dame Cathedral, there's a meteor that landed in like New Mexico, there's bits from the World Trade Center from 9/11, there's a twisted bit of steel there. There's so many random bits, isn't there?
Yeah, I think Taj Mahal, the Parthenon. Yeah, there's hundreds, well, not hundreds, there's quite a few little bits, and they will tell you exactly where they're from, and they're right there. And I can guarantee you that thousands upon tens of thousands of people have walked past that building and have never noticed that they're stuck right there, and it's pretty cool, isn't it? It's easy to miss, but as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah, they're all
like
over.
Wraps the whole way around and quite far up. I mean, not to the middle, but further than you can reach.
Yeah. Chicago, like most major cities now, do have a bike sharing option. You know, like in London, they got the Boris bikes. Well, in Chicago, there are also scooters as well. They're called the divvy bikes because you are divvying out the bikes. You're divvying them out. But it always made me giggle because obviously, for us English people from England, divvy means something a little bit different. So I used to, they are divvies that ride the divvy bikes because a lot of people just are stupid on the bikes, and traffic in Chicago can be quite dangerous. So it always makes me laugh when I see the divvy bikes. Across the road from the Crown Fountain across Michigan is the Chicago Athletic Association, and we're going to come in here. It is a hotel. On the bottom floor there's a Shake Shack, hello, and a coffee shop, and then we're going to go up one level into the lobby of the hotel. This is one of my favourite places to come during the winter, because you come up in here and it's absolutely freezing outside, and look at this lobby. Isn't it great? It's all wooden, very fancy wooden decorative, with it's like a library. You're like walking into an old library, and they've got an open fire going in one corner. There used to be another open fire over there. So there's 3 open fires. 2 of them are going at the moment. In the winter it's very, very cosy in here. People just come in here to work. You can get on to their Wi-Fi, nice big chairs and stuff. And then you come around the back of the reception, and you walk through a little hallway, and you get into this wonderful bar, which is a games room. So you got shuffleboard, chess. Up here there's a little NBA shooting thing. They've taken it out. There used to be here, this bit area here used to be a bowling. Like Crown Green bowling. But there's a foosball table here now. There's another shuffleboard table, and they have like board games and stuff and what have you. So it looks like mainly shuffle. Have you played shuffle? There's a pool table. There's a couple of pool tables. You never played shuffleboard?
No. I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is. Yeah,
so shuffleboard's a fun game, and basically it's a long table. How long would you say that was? You have these little. Here you've got red and blue, and you're trying to, from this end, there's sand on there which sort of like stops it from going, and you just try and slide it down, and you try and get it into the 1, the 2 or the 3. If it falls off, you don't. So let's have a game. Let's have one quick game. Then they might throw us out, but let's have a quick go. See how good you are. Oh, that's over halfway, so that's a 1. That is a 1. Okay. I didn't even get it that far. But I'm playing strategic. I'm not. I was useless. Oh, she's gone off.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, that's 2. A 2. Oh, right down the middle. Oh, she's gone off either side. So at the moment it's 2-1 to me. Oh, is that going to stay on? Oh, that's another 2. You got to try and knock mine off, basically. You can knock mine off. Okay, no, she didn't knock it off. She went off into the side. So I'm just going to bear that. So I think that was like 5-1 to me. What's my prize?
I'll buy you a coffee.
Oh, okay.
Well, what did I win yesterday? What did we play yesterday? With the throwing bag and the...
Oh, bags.
The more I walked around the city, the more memories came flooding back.
I can tell by the energy in my voice how subconsciously excited I was just to be re-experiencing it all. I didn't realise so much in the moment. Now, a must-see in Chicago is the Art Institute. We have come into the Art Institute of Chicago, and in my opinion, which is, what is that? I don't know what that is. This is one of the best art galleries in the world. Their collection of impressionist paintings is just absolutely stunning. So you come up in here and we're looking at 3 Renoirs, lunch at the restaurant Fournier's, 2 sisters on the terrace and near the lake. And just the colours are just so vibrant, aren't they? And you can just see all the brush strokes, and it kind of looks like it's moving in a way. There's a seascape over there with Renoir. You look at that one over in the colour of the lady doing the sewing. Look, they're just so vivid. There's the Renoir over there with the flowers. It's pretty cool. And there's Monet. We saw samples of this in Cambridge at the Fitzwilliam Museum. A Sunday on La Grande Jatte, Georges Seurat. Look at the size of it, it's massive, isn't it?
Huge.
And it's just all dots. We are stood here looking at the self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. Van Gogh, as the Americans might say. Really intense colours, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, all those little dots, but like, feels like he is looking at the anguish in his eyes. It's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, his look is very intense.
Yeah. We just made a reference to the Doctor Who episode where he brings Vincent to an exhibition of his work and how people are enjoying his work. It's really a great episode.
Should rewatch that.
Yeah. And then there's the Drinkers over here by Van Gogh, which was painted when he was in the asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, small town in the south of France. It's really quite cool, isn't it?
It just makes you realise how many works are just not really known to me anyway.
Yeah, well,
like,
no, exactly.
You know,
I mean,
know the iconic ones, and then you see this, which is like totally unlike anything else of his that I've seen.
And I mean, that's 1890, so that's 3 years after the self-portrait. And there's the Poet's Garden over there, 1888, which is, again, it's just the movement in it. It captures the whole feeling of, not just the image that we're saying, there's the whole feeling of the artwork, of the actual, what you're looking at.
It's like it's in a dream rather than... It's only because we recognise, like, obviously the Houses of Parliament are so iconic for London.
We're looking at Claude Monet's Houses of Parliament, Waterloo Bridge and Charing Cross Bridge. And then over on the wall there they've got his versions of the haystacks. There's several here. And then behind us we've got the water lilies. It's just stunning, isn't it? I mean, not just one or two. When you see them all together, you know, you're just like, there's all these different versions of of haystacks. He's just painting haystacks in the winter, summer, sunset. Just, it's all about the light, this stack of wheat. The way that he really depicts the light is just amazing. And then you come over to his water lilies, and they had an exhibition here before I left, which would walk you around chronologically of Monet's work. He started out as a cartoonist. He'd do all these little cartoons, and then you end up with the water lily pond and the irises, and the water lily pond. And there's a quote from him saying, he did this in his 80s, when he was like late 70s, 80s, and he's saying, now I'm able to paint my feelings. Which is, when you look at his earlier stuff, you're like, no, you're pretty good. But he only felt that towards the end of his life, he was able to paint what he was feeling. And that's really fascinating. As an artist, as a creative myself, knowing, am I able to do that? Am I doing that? Because I'm given a script as an actor, and I use those words, but I only have my own feelings, my own emotions to be able to bring forward. And the size of these paintings are just so impressive. We're down in the ancient Egypt part, and there's a round-topped stela, a commemorative monument in a case here that is dated around about 1870 to 1770 BCE, so we're looking at nearly 4,000 years old, and it depicts a mother, Yatu, and her son Amenemhat. They're sat in chairs surrounded by objects that they hope to use in the afterlife. And it's fascinating to think that we haven't really changed much. We're all concerned about, well, not all of us, I can't say that, what happens after this life. And here's a depiction, and it's on limestone and pigment, so there's colours in there. There's red and yellow. It's mainly red and yellow, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of a grey.
And the grey stuff, but it's, the fact that somebody carved that out nearly 4,000 years ago just kind of blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You kind of go, I don't know what that means. But it doesn't have to mean anything. You just have to enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah, it's almost, I find things like this almost too much to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like my head can't go to that place. I don't know why. I find that a lot with really old things, just what's happened in the world since that time.
Yeah, exactly. But the chairs are pretty much the same.
Yeah, pots.
The pots are pretty much the same. The goblets are the same.
Seeing all of those amazing pieces of art in one place was a little mind-blowing. If you have only one thing that you can do in Chicago, you have to go to the Art Institute. Stunning, inspiring, thought-provoking, it really has it all.
Back on Michigan Avenue, and we are at Michigan and Adams, and this corner here is the start of the historic American Route 66. This is where it starts and goes all the way to California. We are underneath the elevated train. Can't remember what street this is. But the Chicago has the Chicago Loop. We're technically inside the loop now, because you come down on the public transport and the elevated train goes around. It's the iconic train that you see up in the like one story up. We just walked underneath it. We're right next to the Palmer House Hilton, which is one of the oldest hotels and the first hotel that I stayed in when I came to Chicago. First place. You can hear the L train coming down now. It's usually the brown line, the red line, the green line. That's the orange line. Look, you see that going around.
just stopping at the... we're on Wabash. Yeah, it's the same street that we're on, but we're south. So Adams and Wabash. $2.25 to take a single journey anywhere within Chicago when you get on the L. And then if you transfer within 2 hours, it's an extra 25 cents. That's really, for an American city, it has a really good public transport. Down walking along the River Walk, which is relatively new to Chicago. It's been put in over years, inspired by the River Walk in San Antonio in Texas. It's just a nice walk right along the side of the river. There's a section we're coming up to. It's got a few bars in it. You're going underneath we've just gone underneath Clark Street, coming up to Dearborn Street, State Street. All of these bridges will open up. They open up pretty much twice a year. Let the sailboats go out at the start of the season and let the sailboats come back in. All of them will be up. It's quite a sight to see when you see all the bridges up. But St. Patrick's Day is a huge celebration in here with Chicago for the Irish, and they dye the river green, and it's down to the Plumbers Union to do that. And apparently the first time that they attempted to dye the river green, they put in green dye and it turned orange because it's that polluted. The river is really, it's not a clean river at all. It runs the wrong way as well. It used to run west to east into the lake.
So 1783 is when our first non-native settler arrived to the region. We call him the founder of Chicago, Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable. De Sable was a French-speaking Afro-Haitian, a man of African descent from Haiti. He came here at a time when the river was kind of disputed between France and the United States, and he built a log cabin trading post, which was the first permanent residence on the banks of the river in 1783.
Leaving Chicago this time feels different. It's not just about revisiting a place, it's about understanding how we change alongside the spaces we once called home. Chicago is still the city I remember, but my perspective, my relationship with it has shifted. The buildings stand the same, the streets carry the same rhythm, but I've evolved, and so has the meaning I find there. What struck me most wasn't just the architecture or the art, but the conversations, both with the people I met and with myself. Returning to a place after time can feel like walking through a mirror, seeing both who you were and who you've become. It forces you to ask questions you might have avoided. What parts of you were left behind, and which have you carried forward, knowingly or not? Chicago reminded me that we're all in a constant state of becoming. The past isn't a fixed destination, it's part of a journey we're always navigating, and that journey, for each of us, is both unique and universal. As I leave the city once again, I challenge you as I challenge myself. How can we take what we've learned about ourselves, about the world, and shape something better? How can we hold on to the past without letting it define us? And how do we move forward with purpose? The Story Pilgrim was written, recorded, edited by me, Darren Hill. Anya Backer providing the ethereal music on Sean the Harp. Thank you to Lucy and Bobby, who you heard at the end there giving the architecture, river and lake tour. And also to you for listening. To find out more, please search The Story Pilgrim on all of your socials. Follow us and say hi when you can. Until the next time, keep listening and buen camino.